and hello, welcome to my review of Little Women, the film that has actually only just come out today here in Poland, although it has been released much earlier in other countries. But yeah, I saw the first showing of the day and really liked it. I know I tend to eulogize films that I've watched quite a lot. Either it's the best film ever or the worst film ever. Somebody once made a joke about my reviews, but no, it's a really nice film. Of course, one tends to go to watch films that they think they will like, um, unless you're a film critic. And like I said in the last video, I'm not. But Little Women is a film I really wanted to review for this channel because it's a channel about rhetoric and, of course, adaptations of classic novels is right up my street. And I don't think there's so many adaptations or good adaptations around these days. I might be wrong. But this one I think was really well done. It was very faithful, and yet at the same time, it had something different about it, which I will get into. But yeah, straight away, it was a very, very nice film, really watchable. I would happily go back and watch it a second time, actually. And the acting is fantastic, really is sensational acting, which of course is very important. Now, the director I don't know much about, although the name is familiar because I've actually seen this director's name in other films. I mean, actually as an actress, Greta Gerwig, I believe, and I think I saw a couple of films a couple of years ago. I think she was in Jackie. Straight out of the top of my head, this from memory, but that film about Jackie Kennedy, starring Natalie Portman. Then I think about 2 weeks later, I went back to the cinema and saw another film with Greta Gerwig, which I think I won't be able to remember. I will just put a picture on the screen of whatever the film was. Well, apparently she's a director as well, and I think actually the last film that I reviewed a few weeks ago, which was Marriage Story, I think she's actually married to the director of that film, so that's quite a strange coincidence. Anyway, so based on the classic novel, 19th century novel by Louisa May Alcott, which was published in 1868. I'm actually just reading from the copy that I own myself in the introduction, just to get the year right. However, I wasn't aware until about the day before I saw the film, actually, yeah, the day before, that this is based on not just the classic novel Little Women, but actually the sequel, which I have not read. In fact, I didn't know there was a sequel, although I do remember now that such a thing existed, but yeah, never sort of thought about it when reading the book, that there was another book after it. So that book apparently was called Good Wives, and so obviously they're all grown up, or more grown up than they already were. And yeah, so it was interesting watching the film because half of the, or maybe 60-70% of the scenes, I thought, oh yeah, that bit and this bit. And then the rest of the film was a complete surprise because I hadn't read the other book, and so that was quite a strange experience. I don't think I've ever been in that position before. Either I've read the book and I know roughly what to expect, or I haven't read the book and it's all new. But this time it was 50-50 or 60-30, 60-40 or whatever it was. Let's get into something else about the film. Interesting, actually, because, of course, good wives, that implies people getting married. And like I say, I'd actually just watched Marriage Story, which is actually by, I believe, two directors both married to each other. And it was quite an interesting follow-up, actually. Marriage Story is a very modern film, of course. It's set in modern times, and this is set in a time, 19th century, where marriage was something a bit different, and women had to marry in a way in order to well, for custom, but money reasons and so on. And that is addressed quite explicitly in this film, but not overly done. Um, Done in a good way. I'm just going to jump into the feminism aspect. Of course, the book has the writer herself was, I believe, had, feminist views and so on. I'm not going to get into that because I don't know enough about it. But what I like about this film is the fact that it does feminism in a good way. For someone who's obviously a man, I enjoyed it greatly, and I think sometimes you can have feminism done rather sort of in a forced sense, or maybe even slightly toxic. And I think this was just perfect. It addressed the issues, like I say, of marriage, and had a slight sort of modern wink in some sense, but in a good way. And it was so faithful, and you felt like you actually had gone back in time 150 years, which is what you want. You want to go to the cinema and escape back to a previous time. Um, and on that issue, costumes, wonderful. I love these. What we used to call, I don't know if they call them these anymore, but costume dramas. I absolutely love just looking at the costumes and all the little details, the um, interior design, architecture, all the horses and carriages, and you notice tiny little things, quilts, patchwork, things on the wall, someone's shoes, and small details, curtains, all sorts of things. And I just think it's wonderful aesthetics, aesthetics, which I think we long for, we crave deeply. And I think we live in a time where there's a dearth of such things. The actresses are fantastic, and okay, we have, I believe her name is Emma Watson. Is that her name? Yeah. And I haven't really seen many of her films. I've barely even watched the Harry Potter films. I've only saw the first two or three. I'm not a fan, really. The Florence Pugh is the only actress who I'm not so keen on. The film Midsummer, she was quite good for that film, but she did a film called Lady Macbeth, and I absolutely hated that film. I thought it was dreadful. I think the main reason why I didn't like it was because I think that's an example for me of feminism not done particularly well. Although some people thought it was brilliantly done. I think it felt too modern, and she always, to me, seems like a very modern actress, and I it takes me a little bit out of the moment. Whereas all the other actresses, including Emma Watson, even Laura Dern, to a certain extent, but not fully, I felt transported back into a previous time. Especially the main actress, whose name I can't think of how to pronounce or spell. I think I remember her from right at the end of the film. I thought, oh, hold on a minute, she's that girl from the Mary Queen of Scots film. It must be her, surely. Beautiful actress. I mean, crikey, absolutely stunning. And just a pleasure to to watch. I remember, really praising her. I didn't do a review of that film, but I remember thinking how wonderful she was in that Mary Queen of Scots film, as flawed as that film was. I mentioned Laura Dern. Probably not my first choice for that role. I was a bit surprised that she was playing the mother figure, but and actually I have to make a quick correction about Laura Dern, because I said in the previous review that in Big Little Lies, the TV series, she plays a lawyer. Actually, it's not. She doesn't play a lawyer. That's played by Nicole Kidman's character. So I beg your pardon. But she plays anyway. She plays basically in Marriage Story. Laura Dern plays still virtually the same character, but definitely not in this film, where she plays a very different character. Which is nice to always see actresses actually step out of their usual roles now and then. And she did a good job. Meryl Streep, funny enough, is also in the film, and she's also in season 2 of Big Little Lies. And of course, she plays a very different character in both, although there's some similarity somewhere. All right, let's move on. Also, some of the male parts, anyway, were also good, but they're not perhaps so central to the film. But the chap who played Laurie, I did like him as well. The rhetorical part of this review, I'm going on too long, but I got to get it in. So it's quite diegetic, I think is the phrase. It's sort of postmodern in a way, in the sense there's time jumping about. So you have two books, Little Women, when they're sort of like teenage years, and Good Wives, I believe, not the title that she approved of apparently, but obviously they're old enough, a bit older, old enough to be married. Like I say, I haven't seen the film, I haven't read the book, so I can't tell you exactly how old they are in that story. And of course, the actresses have to pretend to be a little bit younger and a little bit older in these two different moments. But the time jumps around quite a bit, almost to the point where I wasn't quite sure. Okay, 95% of the time I knew what was happening, but about 5% of the time I thought, hold on a minute. At one point it started to jump a little bit too much. Anyway, it really wasn't a big deal. It's quite a modern thing to do, but also there's sort of references itself in the sense of it's kind of writing its own story. I don't want to go in too much because there's people who haven't read the books and don't want me to ruin the film for them. But the point is about writing a book, publishing a book. This is central to the film, and this is the self-referential part of it. And for someone who loves writing, I haven't published a book. Hopefully, maybe one day. Hopefully, one day. But it's such a special. You get that really special feeling of this wonderful scene at the end of the film. Don't want to ruin it, but oh yeah, it's just that sort of a piece of artwork coming together. Now, there's more than just writing in this film. If you've read the book, you know that one of them's good at writing, one of them's good at painting, one of them's good at music, and so on. So they've all got their talents, and this is a film about creating. The whole Pilgrim's Progress allegory and illusions, that doesn't really get brought up at all in this film. I was interested to see if that would be a part of it, and it just isn't even mentioned. They don't even that's surprising actually. They don't even mention Pilgrim's Progress once in the whole film. Maybe they just think that nobody knows what it is anymore. So that's interesting. And the final thing I must say is that the scenes, not just the costumes and buildings and all that I've said, And the music, actually very good music, wonderful choices of classical music, but the uh, the scenery is absolutely wonderful. You could chew on the scenery all day long, and I mean, it's so romantic in every sense of the word. The scene, I'm not giving away spoilers, the scene when they're skating on a pond, it's in the book, it's a famous scene. Oh my God, I mean, that was just heavenly at the start of that scene. The forests, the beach, and wow, what a job! And I think we also, again, like the costumes, we sort of hark um, back. We long for this era of beauty, like serenity, simplicity. It's interesting because they're sort of struggling for money a lot of the time in this story, and yet you watch the film and think, well, crikey, like they look like absolute richest people in the world. But and they live next door to somebody very rich and so on. But anyway, yeah, it actually made me think of Thomas Cole paintings. That's how sumptuous the scenery was. Anyway, I've basically said everything that I possibly could. Really, please go and watch it. Great film. You won't be disappointed. If you love adaptations of classic novels, you'll love this. If you love the book, you'll love it. If you haven't read the book, go and watch the film anyway. It won't ruin the book. So every reason there is to go and watch this film. Thank you very much. I'll be back with another video on something at some point. So see you there. Bye.